Welcome to the second hour of our Friday program. Is the Russian military teetering on the edge of disaster? Are they in full panic mode, like the headlines say? Let's check in with our buddy Phil Ittner, the veteran war correspondent based in Kyiv, Ukraine. You can find his video blog over on YouTube under the name Philip Ittner, Philipittner. That's also how you spell his Twitter handle, Philip Ittner. And Phil, welcome back to the program. So is the Russian military teetering on the brink of disaster like I'm seeing in the headlines? I'm not hearing Phil.
I think it's too early to say it's teetering. Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'm hearing you
better?
I'm hearing you just
sorry,
fine.
Tom.
Yeah, we're good. We're good, Phil.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Well, I think it's too early to say that the Russian military is teetering on the brink of disaster. It's too early to say that. But the Ukrainians are saying they're actually regaining territory around the embattled town of Bakhmut, which has kind of ebbed and flowed for months now. A relatively small target and arguably not that strategically important, but they have fought over that town, the Ukrainians and the Russians, for many, many months now. And it was just a couple of weeks ago that the Russians were making that, they were imminently going to capture it. It looks like the Ukrainians held on. Now the Ukrainians are even saying they're regaining territory. It's hard to tell exactly what the situation is because access to that area of the front line is highly restricted currently because of a number of things, not least of which the possibility of a counteroffensive. But, we do know that the Russians, to say they're on the brink of disaster, again, I reiterate, way too early to say that. But we do know that they're having an awful lot of problems, not least of which is it seems to be internal fighting between various commanders for essentials like ammunition. So I don't know if they're teetering or if things are looking, catastrophic for the Russians, but it doesn't look like it's going that well for them.
Yeah, and now I'm seeing reports that the United States and Great Britain are offering fairly long-range missiles, not, the kind of missiles that like ICBMs, but missiles that have a range of 100, 200, 300 miles, which could, take out positions in Crimea even. Is that, are these just kind of one-off anomalies, or are we stocking Ukraine with what could become, offensive weapons that could turn the war?
Well, the Brits have openly said that they are giving what is called their Shadow Strike, if I'm remembering that correctly, cruise missiles. And those are really long-range weapons that could go not only to Crimea, but deep into Russian territory as well. And the Russians are notably in their state-run media furious about the possibility that the Brits are doing this. And if we're going to also follow suit, I'm sure that won't go down well with Moscow. But what this means is that they can actually strike with cruise missiles the way we have been struck by Russian cruise missiles here in Kyiv. Potentially the Ukrainians have the capacity when they take hold of these cruise missiles from first the Brits and then potentially the Americans, they could hit strategically essential places like Rostov-on-Don, which is a huge military hub for the entire sector, not just Ukraine, but the Caucasus. It's one of Russia's primary military sites, but potentially a whole range of Russian cities come into play here, and that really will bring the war to Russia's homeland, and that whether it's strategically hitting a military base inside Russia itself or sending the message that Russia, you are at war with Ukraine, and it is something that from reports that I am getting from internally within Russia, in the media, and I have friends that are reporting from the other side of the equation here, and they tell me that there's a weird feeling in Russia right now of this kind of like, we know we're at war, but we don't We want to pretend we're not at war. We want things to be normal. We don't want to, this is not such a big thing. Well, if cruise missiles start hitting targets internally within Russia, they won't be able to deny that they're at war anymore. The facade will disappear. And that might be real trouble for Vladimir Putin.
There you go. Phil Ittner, you can find his video blog over on YouTube under his name, Philip Ittner, Philipittner. Phil, thanks so much. I appreciate the information.
We'll see you next week, Tom.
Indeed. Look forward to it. Thank you. It's 17 minutes past the hour. We'll be back with more of the news of the day and your calls on Anything Goes Friday. Stay tuned.